Hi, my name is Shauna Cooper, and this is Miss Hannah Johnson. And I wanted to do a video to explain to her some of the things about the class that I just took at Georgetown College. And it is ESL Assessments and Culture. And I am doing this video to just kind of show her some tricks of the trade and ways to help students who are not from our country and who don't speak English normally. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to explain to her what the WITA standards are, and basically they go along with our regular Common Core standards. These are different because these help the student master English in ways that will help them to learn the language to talk to us better. It's not, oh, well, you have to master this standard because you're in 8th grade. No, it's best for them to
formatted for them.
Exactly. It's best to work with them in alongside with our Common Core standards. So, we're going to kind of review this small unit that I did, and it's called the Wild West. And you can look at it too. I have 3 different standards that we are actually going to go through, and I'll try not to tie up too much of your time. But basically, whenever we do this design, this kind of lesson plan, it's called the UBD or backwards design. And basically what you start with is, what do you want your students to learn? What do you want the big idea to be? Like, I want my kids to learn about the West because they need to know about the Louisiana Purchase, and they need to learn about Sacagawea and Lewis and Clark and how they mapped it out. So they need to know that because that's how our country became what it is. So you start with that, and then you work backwards. You find assessments that you want the student to try so that they can master the content. And then you work even further back, and that's when you include your standard, and you get your WITA standard, and you just put all those in the beginning. But you're pretty familiar with the lesson plan, so I'm going to show you what this looks like. Now, in the very beginning, you will have stage 1, which is your desired results. This is where all of your Common Core and your WITA standards would go. In the next part, you want to address the questions. And in here, I have essential questions that are on the topic and that are overarching. And overarching basically says, in the big picture of things, this is what I want my kids to know. And that's my questions is, how can we learn from the mistakes of those from the past?
Like, this is the whole point of teaching this lesson.
Exactly.
Right here.
This is the whole point. Why did we build the Transcontinental Railroad? Well, hello, to get from one side to the other. It's kind of like, why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side? What happened on Lincoln Highway, which is what we call it now, but it was Donner's Party. It's Donner's Pass, but it's on Lincoln Highway. What happened in those mountains to this family? We need to know all of this and all the hardships that these people faced so that we can learn from their mistakes and move on with the future. So that's why I had overarching questions that kind of included everything. Now, in this lesson plan, I specifically highlighted everything, and I'm going to show you that. Whenever I get to a part, I highlight what is super special just for my English language learners, my ELL students. So whenever you see the highlighted green in here, you'll say, oh my gosh, this is what I need to do differently for my ELL and my special education students. All the other kids are doing this. Well, I can do this with them in addition to what I'm already doing for them. So, I also included, because, everybody has to know how to do these and how to grade from them, but I wanted to make up like little grading systems for them. And I want to show them, here's what you have to do. And every time that they do anything in my class, and I don't know if you do this, I think you do this too, I've seen them hanging out on the boards, is if you want to get 5 points, then you need to do this. But if you do this, you're only going to get 3. So, if you have that posted for the students, then they can really see what they're going towards, what they're really reaching for.
Right.
So I use these in my class. A lot of teachers do, to just show the kids, hey, here's what we're doing.
Here's what we're looking for.
Right, here's what we're looking for, and this is why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Guidelines help a lot, too,
yes,
with assignments like that.
very good. And assessments.
Yeah.
How do you know if they're getting it?
Exactly.
You gotta assess them. But do it in ways that don't intimidate the new English language learner and doesn't intimidate the special education student. And it actually works alongside the gen ed or the advanced student. Graphic organizers. Everybody can do a graphic organizer. You just write in certain things. But here's the thing. It's for the advanced students because they can think on a higher level and write higher level questions and answers. But yet it can work for the basics and the ELL and the special education students. So, graphic organizer, we're going to check to make sure they understand what they're doing. They're going to do exit slips, answer some questions. They even get to either rewrite a summary of something, like rewrite the ending of the story, or they can illustrate it. They can draw pictures.
Oh, that's cool.
And I created a rubric for either or. That way, if my ELL students say, I really can't write that well, but by George, I can draw, I'm going to give them credit for that. And they're going to draw me. I put my rubric on the board. Here's what I'm looking for. This is all the things you have to include if you want to get an A. So they know what to do. So the first day, basically what we go over in class is we're going to do the reason why the Louisiana Purchase was explored and who were the people and why did they do it. Now, whenever we're doing this, there's a thing in a book that I read, Understanding by Design, and it says there's this little acronym, WHERE to. And I love WHERE to because it tells me who or what I'm addressing. Then you have to hook the student to get them engaged in learning. Then you give them a chance to explore it. Reading, listening, watching something. Then you give them time to reflect and rethink and rework an evaluation. So that's usually where your assessment comes in. And then tailor and personalize. The T is my favorite part because this is where my ELL, my special education students come in. I tailor the lesson to fit the needs of all my students.
Of each individual one.
Exactly. And then O is just to organize things. So I always look at this whenever I'm filling out my stage 3, my learning plan, to know exactly what to do with my where to. Where am I going to go with this lesson? What am I expecting them to learn?
Right.
So the Louisiana Purchase, I want to hook the students. So the first thing I'm going to ask them is, did you know that there was a woman on the first exploration ever? And she was the leader. So these kids are going to be sitting there going, oh my gosh, there was a girl. The girls are going to be going, yeah, and the boys are going to be going, no way. So you want to hook the student right in the beginning, get their attention, tell them something crazy. In a different lesson, I ask them, do you know what cannibalism is? I know! Because they need to know that for the Donner Party. What happened with the Donner Party? Well, they all ended up being cannibals. Now it's Lincoln Highway. So we start with the lesson. I go in order. But here's my favorite part. Here's what I'm telling whoever looks at this lesson plan. They can look at it and say, oh, I'm going to write my questions on the whiteboard to help all of my students remember what they're looking for, what they're listening for, and why are they learning it. So you can look through here. I actually have articles online that you can link to. And students, you give them just different assessments to check for it. You can either do like a hand check. How many understand this? Or you can do 1, 2, 3. Yes, 3, I get it. 2, I kind of get it. 1, I have no clue. Or you can do thumbs up or thumbs down. It's all visual with the ELL learner. Everything's visual. They do really great with pictures, images, visualization. And in some of my lessons, the second lesson, matter of fact, we'll read on to it, is whenever they're listening to something, if they're not fluent at all, there's beginning stages. There's stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, being completely proficient. 1, they're just starting. You can actually use Google Translation for a lot of these websites, and it will translate it into their native language, and they can listen to it, and they'll know exactly what it's about, and then you just ask them the questions. And if they don't understand the questions, you can actually use Google Translation for that with a Word document. So there's so many different things. Technology, I add technology. Students need they need technology to learn.
Yes.
They're attached. So day 2, I give them, here's what they're going to do. You have to understand that not having adequate supplies and limited resources will prompt people to resort to alternative means of survival, and that's the Donner Party. They didn't have enough food. They didn't have enough water. So they have to look at these things while they're listening to this short reading on the internet and think, wow. And then I give the kids time to sit there and talk like we're doing.
Yeah.
I give them time. I say, hey, how would you get water back then? If they don't understand that, they're going to say a water faucet, but there wasn't such things.
Right.
So you give them this few minutes to discuss this, and you can prompt and cue the ones that need the help. Say, oh, hey, did you know they didn't have water faucets? They didn't have bathrooms. You had to go in the creek to wash. Just different things. Giving them that little extra time to talk to a student who might be familiar with their language or is a really good leader will give them that extra hand on the lesson. So we keep going, and I ask, cannibalism. The big thing to remember is always link your lessons from the one before to the next day. It's really good to remind the students, but here's what we did yesterday. Can you tell me a little bit about this? That way they're keeping that. They're refreshing their memory, and the more that you think about something, the more you commit it to memory.
Right.
So we're going to look here. I even actually have the students role-playing in one part, which kind of helps them because they get that time to talk to their friends. The third lesson on day 3 is you're going to look at the Transcontinental Railroad and the 2 different immigrants, basically, who built it. The Irish and I think it was the Chinese.
Yeah.
Yes. You're going to see how they had to come together at the end and how they hammered in the gold spike. And this is important, but the students need to be familiar with cultural traits. Here's the way these people lived. And they can relate to that because they're different than us. They don't live exactly like us.
Right.
So it gives them that chance to compare and contrast with a Venn diagram, which is excellent. And then, let's see, here's once again your highlights, your big green section where you can work on, I tailor it specifically to this student. And then the 4th day is the writing day, and this is when you will actually assess the students in the writing section. And you will actually have, once again, you have your little section here that says, this is what you're going to do with your ELL students and your special ed students.
Right.
Now, I go over my justifications. Why did I do this? And that's the big thing. You have to tell whoever's going to teach your lesson, this is why I did, collaborative grouping. This is why I do extended time. This is why I do visual aids and cues. This is why I use technology. Kids learn from kids. Kids learn from the computers. Kids don't learn a lot from teachers. They learn by their surroundings. Therefore, give them that chance to learn. Let's see what else. Now, if you were to use this in your classroom, do you like the idea of having the more visual techniques? Or what would you do? What would you use it as? Like if you had to assess your students, would you have them writing every day, or would you say, hey, let's act it out? Tell me some of the things that you would like to do.
Well, there's different learners, so I would try to do like tactile things, visual things.
Okay.
So a lot of what you have here covers both of those,
Right.
I mean, there's the, like kids that can hear things things and just
And
click
get it.
with it.
Right.
But most of the time, it's visual learners and tactile learners.
Okay.
You know, and a lot of this works great with them.
So you could probably
Implement
pick up
that
on this
very well. Yes.
Okay, good. Do you think that the students that you've had experience with, because I know you teach the younger ones, do they like things that they can see better?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the way the ELL students learn, and a lot of my special ed students learn that way too. If they can see it, they can do it.
Right.
And it's also another way
It needs to be demonstrated to them.
Exactly. They can see it and they know, oh, this is what I have to do.
Because if you're just sitting there hearing things all the time, like most students are, over time, they just stop listening. Their
Exactly.
attention spans.
You're right. Yes.
You got to keep them intrigued.
Yeah. So if you stick a picture up there and they have to look at the picture and then you tell them some information, they start seeing the whole picture, not just an image.
And you have videos linked on here too. So
Exactly. Videos, translations, it depends on the level of the learner.
Right.
All right. So, do you like my lesson plan?
Yes.
Would
It's
you
very well planned out.
Would you be interested in trying the universal design, the backward design?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Well, good. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
I look forward to talking to you again.
All righty.
Thank you all for watching, and this is Shauna Cooper, over and out.